actually rolling. The October 17th regular meeting of the Granada Sanitary District Board of Directors is called to order. Roll call, please.
Okay.
There's no amplification in this room. The microphones are so that we get good sound on the video recording, but we do not.
We'll try and speak up.
If people could move closer, that would probably also be a good thing.
Okay, and President Warren, if you don't mind, I'll explain the confusion on the
Why don't you do the roll call?
first. Okay. President Leonard Warren.
Here.
Vice President Matthew Clark.
Present.
Secretary Rick Lohman.
Here.
Treasurer Gail Erickson.
Here.
Director Jim Blanchard.
Here.
And also at the table are General Manager Chuck Duffy and our legal counsel Jonathan Whitwer. And for anybody who has any questions, I'll be off to the side. My name's Delia. I'm the administrator. We'd like to thank everybody for coming, and we wanted to start off by apologizing for the confusion on the start time of the meeting. We have a special closed session at 6:30. Unfortunately, the Half Moon Bay Review had published the meeting starting at 6:30. However, the regular meeting at 7:30 is when we'll be addressing the Parks and Rec reorganization issue, so we apologize for that confusion.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from members of the public or directors for items that are not on the agenda? I don't know what to do here. Do we have comments from members of the public or directors for items that are not on the agenda? Anything else that's within the authority of the district that you might want to comment on? Anything that's not otherwise listed on the agenda?
Leonard? Not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday, which is about 10 days from now, is the big cleanup
Right.
down in front of the fire station, where bring, big stuff, little stuff, fill your car up, and everybody get down there. And it's free. It's at one thing a quarter, where you get to bring all your stuff in for pickup. And that's right in front of the fire department.
Well, no, it's at the foot of Portola.
Well, sure.
few years
You'll
ago-
see a bunch of cars lined up there taking the stuff.
A few years ago, they asked us to move it and not do it in front of the fire
Okay.
station. I do have one thing. I want to ask the general manager to address one issue. I heard a couple days ago someone saying that there's no amplification in this room.
Yeah, let me
That's-
just clarify that. If I can speak pretty loudly, so if I can do that and try and get you to see. What he's trying to tell you is that these microphones here are strictly for the audio production, and they come with the TV, this gentleman right here. So they don't, these aren't used for that purpose, so I wanted to let you know that. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay, so you gotta speak as loud as I am. Sorry. And Rick's got a good voice, so come on, you can do it.
Well, I'm probably also closer there. I would like the general manager to address something that I heard a couple days ago. Someone was saying that the reason this district is in good financial shape is because we don't spend money on maintaining the sewers. So,
Well,
would
we
you-
obviously do spend money maintaining the sewers. We've just completed in the past year and a half 3 projects. One was the Naples Beach force main realignment for about $1.2 million. The other was a repair and replacement of existing sewer main for about $250,000. And probably the biggest one that has the most impact is the wet weather storage flow management project, which is out on the Burnham Strip, which helps equalize our flows during heavy rains. When we get heavy rains, we get a lot of inflow and infiltration, and that's generally what causes sewer spills. So that project, for that $800,000, $900,000, has a real strong impact on protecting our beaches and our environment. So, and we've averaged probably over the past 10 years $350,000 to $400,000 a year in capital projects, whether it be sewer main replacement or projects at the treatment plant. So. we have put quite a bit of money in there. All right.
Okay, I'm trying to interpret the speaker request forms.
Can't hear you.
I'm trying to interpret the way the speaker request forms are filled out. It looks like some people have submitted forms for the public participation, which means commenting on items not on the agenda, but
Is everyone here to comment on the Community Services District proposal? Does anybody want to comment on anything differently?
well, it looks like this one here, even though public participation is checked, it says LAFCO application rejection from David Seaton, so I'm going to put that with the forms. It also says agenda item 1. Did you want to speak for anything not on the agenda?
Okay.
All right, so and Chris Michelson, you also checked public participation, but what item did you want to speak on?
I want to introduce the Friends of Granada Youth nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Is that before now?
Yeah, if it's not related to any of the agenda items. Okay, could you come to the public mic so that you will be picked up on the video recording?
Okay. No PA.
Right.
And I got a voice. You just got too much bass. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Mickelson. I am a resident of El Granada. Recognized. We are at the El Granada Sanitary District meeting. That's part of the notes. I'm a father of 3 kids here. They go to this school. They actually have lunch in this room and play on the playground. And an advocate for them being outside. There's a couple of successful video games out there called Minecraft that my son just is infatuated with, and it's hard to peel him off the sofa and go play Pee-wee Pop Warner football that they're both enrolled in, both my boys. My oldest daughter goes to Cunha. Half Moon Bay alumni. My 20-year reunion is tomorrow night, so it's on. Class of 93, in case you guys missed the math. All right. Okay, it's going to be at Mezzaluna if you guys want to crash it tomorrow. And the after party will be at the OPL. There's good live band. Okay, well, what I'm here to speak to you about is this place is special to all of us. It's one of the things that's important. That what's going to happen here in the near future is it's going to change everything. You know, there's going to be 100 years of stuck with the checks. We got to get it right, people, and we got to come together. It's important. And our children right now, unfortunately, have the unfortunate time that they're missing. That photograph I saw in a flyer of a swing hanging from a eucalyptus arm. It's made of an old tire. That's desperation. It's desperation. Unfortunately, that's now. What's coming is a change. That's what these people are here to help us enable. Every one of you are going to make a big difference. It's important. I founded a nonprofit organization called the Friends of Murata East Property that butts up with this property. 42 acres of ground that is magnificent. I see it in my dreams. That's a fact. Now, before I go on and gush about how marvelous that piece of property is and why we are the friends of, first of all, let me introduce my couple of board members. Tim DeWeird, go ahead and stand up. He's an El Granada resident. One of my board members, Jesse Pemberton, Half Moon Bay resident. My vice president had an emergency at the house. He's got a 3-year-old. Who knows what happened? I moved here from Moss Beach. I've been a Coastside resident since my mother and father moved here in '88. And I fell in love with a Half Moon Bay Cougar, my sweetheart Danielle, and when I was 17, and we started a family. And it's a shame that so many times that we get stuck just going to the beach when there is a hillside and a bluff and some magic in these mountains. What's going to happen here in short order is we want to make sure that we get an opportunity to put a place where our children can run and play and compete and be together with us. It's our turn. So the Friends of La Mirada invites you to become members. Let's get together, let's get a voice. We only got a few members now. We've barely got enough to put a board together, but damn it, we applied for the C license and it's on. I want everyone in this room to sign up as soon as you can. Friends of La Mirada East website is under construction, but you can get on there very soon.
You're from Southern California?
La Mirada? Yeah, I know. That's a slip of the tongue.
Yeah.
But
Chris,
I want to call this place Mirada North, but we can't do that.
Chris, how about your phone number?
My phone number is my personal cell phone number, 510-809-1782. That's a line of communication to get direct touch with me at any time. Friends of Mirada, all one word, is our domain, .org. You can log on to that, but it'll redirect you to a local disc golf club, because that's all we had at this moment to keep communication open. There's a drop down where you can actually get in there and fulfill a couple of questionnaires to say, hey, this is my address, this is what we want to do. I don't want to ramble on. I can't stress on you, I'm the president, by the way, if you can't tell. But one of the things that's important is
Check. Is that
you
extra?
can't be short-sighted.
Is that
You
this?
can't. If it takes time, it takes time. That's due process, and everybody gets a voice. It's important that happens because it's permanent. And what happened up at Quarry Park is grand, but Jesus, they got a lot of work ahead of them. Can anybody say hazardous vegetation mitigation? Can we get a line item on that? There's poison oak out there that would kill a man. But I just want to introduce everybody and in good faith. Let's do this. This is an exciting time. We're all in. Our time is now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Yes, sir.
other?
I'm sorry, I came in late. I'm Daniel Pope, I'm an El Granada resident. And I heard your great speech, but where is this money coming from to buy those 42 acres?
Well, right now, currently the 42 acres is under the control of the San Mateo Parks and Rec. Mr. Horsley, a member of our District 3 representation, has heard an appeal from our Board of Directors to listen to what we need done. And when I say we, I mean we people. It ain't about you. It ain't about me. It's we. We got to do this. We got to get it right, and it's going to be due process. But we can. There's so much ground in this mid-coast. Let's make it a destination, guys. I'm going to leave my house to my kids. I hope to get enough bedrooms so they can all self-fulfill their dreams. They got to be a park here for my grandkids.
So this then is county land,
Yes, sir.
no eminent domain, this is county land.
The county purchased the land, how long ago? A decade and a half ago?
It's like 01.
And do we need the sewer district to be part of this? Why do we have to incorporate them?
That's a good question.
Wait,
The sewer district is in charge of many splendid things on this mid-coast. One of them is a terrific grasp upon the fiscal ability of the Measure A funding. The Measure A funding that has happened recently that filled the coffers and actually allowed the county to split their Parks and Rec out once again to create a single pane of glass to people like ourselves. Now, one of the things that can happen is you don't get a voice. I started a nonprofit organization, so you do. So I want to see your name on there so we can chat.
We really need to wrap this up and move on.
I don't mean to get up here and waste your time. It's a pleasure to meet you all.
I'm glad you were here and made the announcement, but you know, we do want to allow plenty of time for people to comment on the regular agenda item. So any other comments for items not on the agenda? All right. Now, normally I like to run meetings fairly informally, but given the number of people who are here, I think we may need to use somewhat more formal procedures, but it depends on how many people really want to speak. So I would really ask that if you intend to speak on this item, if you could fill out a speaker slip so we can count them up and decide how much time we can allow for each speaker. You don't really have to put anything on here other than, some way for me to identify you. We would like you to identify.
Anyone back, there's no sound?
Um,
Reporters in this room?
If you'd like to speak on the CSD item, could you have a speaker slip? There's a blue speaker slip back on the table there. And if you filled it out, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I have to move closer.
Do you have enough speaker slip for you guys to speak up?
If people could move closer, there still are quite a number of seats closer up. I think that would help. The acoustics in this room are, in general, terrible unless the room is absolutely packed. I'm trying.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I have some comments, and then I think that the general manager will have additional comments. There's a long acknowledged lack of parks and recreation services on the unincorporated Mid-Coast side. The county's done, I think, 3 parks and rec needs assessment.
You just stand up.
Leonard, go over to the, cover the mic. You're standing up.
It won't, it's not amplified.
All right, there's a long acknowledged lack of parks and recreation services on the unincorporated Mid-Coast side. The county's done, I think, 3 parks and rec needs assessments. I don't remember the dates of all of them. The first one was before I was here in 1989. And so it's essentially a given that we need parks and rec services. The October 2002 Mid-Coast Parks and Rec Needs Assessment was prepared by the county following extensive public outreach to address this issue. And the needs assessment and subsequent reports acknowledged the lack of parks and recreation services. And they also made it pretty clear that the county parks department's mission is to operate a regional park system, not neighborhood parks and not active park and recreation programs. And so that's why this district has applied to LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission, to reorganize into a community services district in order to provide parks and recreation services in addition to our existing sewer and garbage collection services. The Parks and Rec function of the reorganized district would be funded by shifting a portion of the property tax that we currently receive as a pre-Prop 13 district from subsidizing sewer service charges to running the Parks and Rec function. And one reason for considering doing it that way is that the legislature, since Prop 13 was passed, has made it clear that they don't think that enterprise districts, an enterprise district is one that provides a service and can charge a fee for that service. So the most well-known enterprise districts are sewer and water. So the legislature, since Prop 13, doesn't believe that enterprise districts should collect property tax. So at some point we will lose it. They try every 2 years to take away the property tax from enterprise districts, and sooner or later they'll succeed, at which time we will have to raise the sewer service charge. So at some point in the development of the proposal to reorganize as a community services district, the issue of funding was still facing us, and then the idea came up, let's shift the property tax that we get, because the state can't take away the property tax from non-enterprise functions. And so in either scenario, we end up raising the sewer service charges to backfill the property tax. But in the one case that we're proposing, we'll get something for it. We'll get local parks and rec function. And if we don't utilize it for that, when the state takes it away, we're going to have nothing, and we'll still have to raise the sewer service charges. I also want to point out that there isn't any other government agency here that can do this. The county doesn't do local parks, as I already said. So basically it's down to either we do this with the reorganization, or it just doesn't get done. The proposal that we're putting forth does call for looking into partnering opportunities with the City of Half Moon Bay, the County Parks Department, the School District, MROSD, Post, Montero Water and Sanitary District, and any other agencies that might make sense to provide park and rec services. So the district has spent a few months now conducting public outreach with various public agencies, culminating with this public meeting tonight, held for the residents of the district. And we're going to consider the public comment prior to finalizing our application. It will then go to LAFCO. It's planned for their regular meeting in November, which I believe is third Wednesday, whatever that date works out.
November
to be.
20th.
November 20th. And if LAFCO approves it, the intent is to have it on the June 2014 regular ballot. And that leads to the bottom line here. We're not approving this. We're just getting it in front of the voters and let the voters of this district decide, do you want the district to transform into a community services district in order to add parks and rec services? So, and anyone who says we shouldn't be doing this, what they're essentially saying is they don't want the people to be able to vote on this. And that's all we're asking, is we want all the citizens of the Granada Sanitary District to be able to vote on the proposal. And if it doesn't pass, that's the end of it. But let's get it in front of the voters and let all of the voters decide. And I think General Manager has
Yeah, I just want to
additional
emphasize
comments.
a couple points there. One is that we are organized under the Sanitary District Act of 1923, so the reason we're reorganizing into a community services district is that allows us to gain these Parks and Recs powers, whereas you can't do that under the Sanitary District Act. So the second part of that is that, I'll start yelling here. So the second part of that is that property tax money that we get now, Leonard's exactly right. Under Proposition 13, it had the side effect of that was they gave us property tax where they normally wouldn't have. And we got to keep that because the allocation you had at the time that was passed grandfathered you into that allocation. So the state is looking for that money. They look every year. And eventually I think they're going to get it because they're a lot better at getting that money than we are. So I think it's important to know that we can take that property tax money and shift it to parks and recs and passive uses where it belongs. So. We got public speak.
Yeah, what I think we should do is have the questions addressed by people actually requesting to speak, and okay.
So we're going to start calling people up who have speaker slips.
Now two of these say agenda item number 2, but I'm assuming it's really for this item. Lisa McCaffrey and David, is that Seaton or Seacam? I can't read it. David Seaton has a slip here, so this is another David, looks like Seacam.
Just start calling people.
Okay, so,
Could you come up to the
You want to
podium
speak
then?
on
Thanks.
this item? Yes. Okay. We have, all right, I didn't see that there's another stack of them here, so all right, let's.
Hi, Lisa McCaffrey. I'm a El Granada resident for 20 years. I would just like to say that I'm happy to see that this discussion is getting out in the open, and I think it's a good thing to vote on. I'm just very concerned about the mixing of the two entities because I'm not really sure the finances of it, and I'm hopeful that this will all be very concrete about what the money is going to do and how you're going to use it from one pot to pay for another. I'm just concerned that we're not going to be using the money to fix our sewers and stuff instead of forcing it into the parks. And I just want to make sure that that's all above board and it's all delineated before we vote on it. So I guess I'm happy that it's going to be up against, that this idea is going to be something that we should all vote on. And I'm just hopeful that it will be very transparent exactly what this means when we decide to vote for this. What does this mean as far as, it sounds great, the parks are great, I love the idea, I think it's a really good idea, but what is that, where does that leave the Granada Sanitary District? Where does it leave the money for fixing the pipes and stuff so that we can keep our beaches clean? We have a great park out there in the ocean, and I want to make sure we take care of that too. Thank you.
I would like to point out that in the size category of this district, in the state of California, about half of the sanitary districts are actually community services districts. And our general manager, who's part-time for us, manages, I think, 3 other districts.
Yeah.
And I believe all of them are other types of districts that do multiple functions besides sanitary. So if you could comment on the budget
I manage
issue.
3 separate CSDs. They provide sewer, landscape and lighting, and underground and utilities, and we're in the process of getting security powers. And to answer your question, the finances are segregated for each thing. So we would segregate, we'd allocate funds at the beginning of each year, but it couldn't be, it honestly could not be more, yeah, it could not be more similar, quite honestly. We've got pipes from 1920, 1960, you know, it's, that, the reason I'm here is because it's so similar, so.
Yeah, and also if you decide to merge this community together, and what happens to the board? Is the board that gets elected for 4 years, and they're the same people, or if it kind of merges, do you have another election?
That's up to LAFCO, but what'll happen is every 2 years we have an election. So if we become a Parks and Recreation District, Community Service District with Parks and Recs powers, in 2 years we'll have our regularly scheduled election, and people can.
The board is the nominees are coming on this for the next 4 years, right?
Yes, it's staggered 4-year terms.
Yeah.
So. Okay, who's the next?
Les, I'm not clear how to pronounce the last name. Looks like D-E-M-E-N? It says Les.
Les?
Les.
Name is Lester Mann. I live in Frenchman's Creek, and I pay taxes to GSD. I just got my tax bill. I can see exactly how much I pay each year, and I agree. I think there ought to be more parks in the area. I have grandkids. I worked on the park in Etheldor, volunteered for that, but I think my GSD money should go for sanitary services, Granada Sanitary District. Now, I'm glad we're going to get a vote on that, but I think there's a lot more that the GSD people can do as far as improving our sewer system and making it safe for the next 100 years. And there are many, many other areas, including recycled water. There are areas such as reducing the smell from the Burnham Strip. And there are issues that I think that need to be solved first before looking at parks. But at least we'll get a chance to vote on that, and I'm happy for that. So thank you for listening to me this evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll point out that sewer service charge he's mentioning on his property tax bill, it all goes to sewer. None of it can go to parks. It's by law, so.
Chuck, do you want to say anything about the property tax issue regarding Half Moon Bay?
Yeah, there's a small section of Half Moon Bay, the northern section, which overlaps our district, and we receive some property tax revenue from that area. So we're working with the city of Half Moon Bay to make sure it's fair to those people who live in Half Moon Bay, but are also within our sewer district boundaries, that whatever property tax gets paid to us, we transfer that over to the city of Half Moon Bay to offset that. So it makes it fair for those people.
I forgot that we wanted to handle one of the items here so that Louis can leave if he wants to. Do you want us to handle your section of this, or do you want to? Okay.
We've been working with Jonathan.
But the board still needs to take some action. So you know, if you want us to do that part of the agenda item now, we can. What do you think,
Let's
Chuck?
go. Yeah.
All right. So do you why
You want me
don't
to do
you
that?
introduce that?
So I'm going to talk as loud as I can anyway. As the board knows, we have been working for several months now with the Farm Bureau and the County Agricultural Advisory Committee to come up with a policy. Our agenda calls it the policy limiting acquisition and use of agricultural lands for park and recreation purposes. And we have now reached a point where we're ready for the board to vote on what would be a memorandum of understanding between the Farm Bureau and our district about agricultural lands. And that MOU, it contains also an ordinance that the board would adopt for, limiting, basically prohibiting eminent domain for park purposes on these ag lands. And it also includes an additional set of mitigation measures protecting agricultural lands in case we did build a park adjacent to an agriculturally zoned land. Protecting so the trails don't interfere, for example, with the agricultural operations, signs, fencing, and in fact, it requires us to give notice to the Farm Bureau before we develop any parks. So what I'm asking the board to do is to adopt or authorize your general manager to sign this memorandum of understanding, to also adopt the ordinance that is attached to it, and to also approve the added mitigation measures. And those mitigation measures then will be going before LAFCO. And that would then protect the agricultural lands, and the Farm Bureau would be satisfied. It's still subject to their final review of this, but because of the timeline here and aiming for the November 20th LAFCO hearing, we need to act tonight on this matter. So I'm asking for a motion that would approve execution of the memorandum of understanding between the Farm Bureau and the Granada Sanitary District, and adopting the ordinance that's attached to it, and approving the mitigation measures that are also attached to it. That would be the proposed motion for somebody to make.
Resolution?
There doesn't need to be a resolution.
Okay. So would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think
I give it to Matthew.
I think
Rick seconded.
I think
All right,
Rick gets it. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. And thanks, Louis.
We're continuing the discussion now.
Specifically on that, on the policy, do you have, I can't read a lot of, did you? Yes, I did. Okay, why don't you speak now? I'm having a lot of trouble reading some of the ways these are filled out.
My name's Mike Donegan. I've lived in El Granada since 1971. My kids have gone to the schools and everything else here. Okay, you brought up one word which I do not like hearing from your lawyer over there. The word is eminent domain. I've lost property to that myself and my family in San Francisco. I am totally opposed to you people coming in and placing, or whatever group you're with, eminent domain. I don't want to question. I'm not an arguing with, you know.
This
Let me
policy,
finish, okay?
this policy doesn't allow for eminent domain. It prevents it.
I hope it prevents it.
Yes.
It does.
Because I hear a
That's what
lot
we
of
just
complaints
voted on.
about the farmer's field behind my house right now, okay? I went to a meeting, a hearing, what do you call that? Was it property hearing over at the Government Center about zoning and this and that with the farmer's field behind me, because I backed up to the creek that touches their property, okay? And there was a word that came up, and you people have brought it up tonight already, joining with Half Moon Bay on some of these ventures. Well, as a person who's been here this long and seen all the problems Half Moon Bay is having, and then going into this meeting, and the first thing out of their mouth about this property behind my house, they say, well, it's Half Moon Bay unincorporated. So I raised my hand and I go, pardon me, this was from their hearing officer. It was a zoning deal. And I go, why do you say Half Moon Bay unincorporated. Well, it's easier to say that. And I go, well, Horsley is the one who wants to incorporate all this property. And I don't know if you took a picture of the people here who would raise their hands that are against going underneath Half Moon Bay's rights. I'm totally opposed to it. Okay, the only other thing, the reason I got up here and filled out a thing, you people are talking about something, I don't know if anybody reads the review, but on page 3A, new Parks Director leads new department, longtime federal land steward hired by county. There you are right there. So why are you people going to get involved in something that the county is already spending big money on?
I explained that at the beginning.
I could not hear you.
The county parks department does not do local parks. They do regional county parks only.
I work for the county, and I know what parks they do. My son worked for the road department. They just cleared a park out that they don't even own for the neighborhood where I live. An easement and everything else for nothing. So don't tell me they don't do. I understand what you're saying, but you guys are infringing on too many people's rights, I think. But anyway, thank you for letting me say something. And
Just a quick thing. As far as Chuck is later going to get into the endorsements and stuff like that, but we've been endorsed by county parks on this issue. So
I'm sorry. The lady isn't even at work yet. How can you be endorsed by something that doesn't?
Okay, the next
Read the
speaker.
article in the paper.
Next speaker is David Seaton.
Okay, thank you. My name is David Seaton. I live down the street, been a Coastside resident 25 years outside of the time I went to college. I think, I think you guys are passing this off like this is no big deal. This is the biggest.
Why do you have to whisper?
Hey, we've got to limit public comment. Okay, he's got the floor. Thanks.
Okay.
A community service district ostensibly puts Leonard Warren as the mayor of the Mid-Coast. If we're gonna talk about this issue, we need to do it with the whole entire community. That's the problem with LAFCO, why you guys have been rejected the application. It needs to be done, a community-based effort with local, you're gonna have oversight over Princeton Harbor, everything. A community service district, 61600, provides with almost all governmental services except land use and planning and zoning. And I would argue that this board has got into land zoning, land use, planning, and zoning with lawsuits over the Big Wave project, which would basically, last week Leonard said that he would approve of it, just not in my backyard, in Half Moon Bay. I would say that that's a land use. So all of a sudden, we're going to give control of this board to become the mayor of the whole entire Mid-Coast, ostensibly, in terms of the powers that you would have. And you're just going to slide that off as some little vote that needs to get passed. This needs to be done with the whole entire community's voice. This can't be done in the back rooms. This needs to be done with agency support and community support. This is not something that just needs to be slid under. And we're going to vote. I'm running because I've been called upon by my community, because if this is going to be the director of, if Mid-Coast is going to have those powers, and you talk about going after private citizens with lawsuits and deed restrictions on properties, and all of a sudden you're going to trust the hands of this board to run all the sanitary system, all of the parks and recs, and this is the best we can do. I think that it's a part of the discussion, but it is you gotta believe that there's other agencies and everyone needs to have a voice, and we need to do this the right way. It's not GSD just electing directors and here we go. It needs to be done the right way, and this is not something that this is something that show where the cost savings are coming from. If you want to talk consolidation, because I sat in this room for 6 years, went to Granada Elementary School. There is no such thing as a free lunch. There's no free lunches. Money comes from somewhere. So if you want to talk about money, we're going to be taking it from our schools where we need more focus. There is no such thing as a free lunch.
We need to let other people speak.
We need community-based efforts, and to think that the GSD is going to take over the whole entire Mid-Coast and that this is the best fit for that is absolutely ridiculous.
You're making a campaign speech, and I'm sure that you may have accidentally said something that was true, but I didn't hear it.
Leonard, move on.
Chuck?
Move on, address it.
There's nothing to address because nothing you said is true. In particular, we're applying only for a single additional power, which is Parks and Rec. All of the rest of the functions of a CSD would not be allowed to be exercised unless we go back to LAFCO again, and then it would have to go to another vote of the people. So nothing that you said is true, absolutely nothing. Chuck, call the next speaker.
The next speaker is
And-
Peter Logan.
We've just gotten a bunch more speaker slips, so we're going to have
Peter
to...
Logan?
We're
Peter
going to have
Logan?
to have to limit people to about 2 minutes because we have to be out of here at 9 o'clock.
Can we?
It's a school problem.
You've got the floor?
You don't have a choice, it's the school's decision.
This is one of the worst.
David, stop!
You're out of order. And the next time, I will pause the meeting and call the sheriff, and you will be ejected, and that is within my rights to do that.
No, Leonard, don't go there.
Then
Peter,
stop
Leonard.
disrupting the meeting.
Peter's
Stop
got the
disrupting
floor.
the meeting.
Leonard.
Can we, thank you, Peter's got the floor. Thank you.
Hello, I just returned
Peter.
from out of the country. I'm completely neutral on this, except for one comment that I heard from a previous gentleman. If this were a baby step to any small sign of incorporation with the city of Half Moon Bay, I will run for the hills and take everyone with me.
No, it's not.
Well, if it were.
It's not.
Yeah. So anyways, I haven't had much of an opportunity to research very much, but what I would like to know is that you are applying for a resource conservation district application.
No.
No.
What is it called?
Community services.
Community Service District, understand. And if it's approved, then there would be, is there a line between, and I apologize, I just returned. I haven't had any opportunity to understand it. What I'm curious about, and once again, I'm neutral, I think we have a need for it, and if you can demonstrate success from past park performances, it might be worthy. But I would like to know, these are my questions. What about past and present uses in the area? And I would like you to include the agricultural and open spaces for pertaining to what you have in mind. I would like you to give specific examples of where and what the GSD hopes to introduce as park facilities. I would like to know what is the present and probable need for public facilities. And with regard to tax revenue, I heard Leonard say something when I walked into the room. I'm still unclear. I'm curious about tax revenue by transfer of existing agency, or would it be by way of a passage of a special tax, or would there be yet another increase resulting in additional rate increases for operations and maintenance and capital improvements from GSD? And once again, I apologize, I haven't had a chance to examine all of this.
Well, can
Like
I address?
I said, I'm neutral and completely in favor of something that works.
Peter, can I address those questions?
Please do.
Okay. If you'll look in the application, I realize you just got back. In the application, it outlines suggested projects. We can't declare projects because we don't have Parks and Recs power now, but we have suggested projects like pocket parks in the boulevards of El Granada. We own the land, some land on the Burnham Strip that could be used for something. We talked about doing something with the county on Quarry Park. So there's a lot of suggested projects in that application. To your second point about the
So,
taxes.
with regard to the previous point that you just answered me, those three are right here in El Granada. What about the outlying
Well, there's
areas?
outlying projects too,
Mid-coast?
but I can't, yeah, I'd have to look
Okay.
at the application,
Okay,
quite
fair
honestly.
enough.
So the second part of the taxes, we currently get about $470,000 a year in property taxes. So what the board will do each year is allocate that money to the Parks and Recreation District in whatever amount it's needed to fund. So there will not be additional taxes raised per se. We're taking our existing tax and offsetting it to the Parks and Recs District. Now, that will obviously potentially have an effect on sewer rates, but again, that's something that the board will decide. And speaking to someone else's point, this is the existing board right now. This board may be very different 2 years from now if we get Parks and Recs power. So, and it'll be different 2 years from then. We'll have an election every 2 years. So, thank you, Peter. I'm going to have to cut you off because we've got to keep moving to the other speakers.
Do you have a budget?
We have a suggested budget, but no, we do not have a hard budget because we have not formed the Parks and Recs District. So,
Thank you, sir.
all right.
I figured about 358 of that a year anyway for the sewers and maintenance.
We get 470 for property tax.
Right, earlier tonight you said you figure about 350 for your municipal, earlier.
Oh, no, that was for capital projects. That's what we spend each year.
I've asked Delia to be a timekeeper because we do have a number of speaker slips that came in after I made the first announcement, and it's going to be pretty tight getting through
So
everyone.
if you could limit it to 2 minutes, that'd be great. Daniel Polk, can you come up to the microphone, please? Thank you.
Daniel Pope, El Granada resident, 35 years, of Mas o Menos. On the property tax, I heard two figures, 450, 470. Is that money now accumulating for the last 10 years? So there is now 4.5 million?
No, that's been used to offset sewer service charges. So we raise about $1.3 million in sewer service charges,
Okay.
and the 470 plus or minus is used to offset that.
Offsets that.
It's what, yeah, LAFCO looks at that as an artificial offset because
So-
we shouldn't be using that money for sewer
So
rates.
if you go to LAFCO and get what you want, that means all of us taxpayers will not incur any more cost because of recreation.
You may incur more cost because that money is supplementing the sewer rates. So if the board allocates enough of it over to the Parks and Rec
Exactly.
side, it may increase your sewer rates, yes.
Okay, and right now, we keep getting new increases every year, which we're an old district, we keep going. So now you're asking the taxpayers to go along with you to go ahead and incur. You don't have a set budget, and we know how budgets go in the government. They start out at 1 million and they end up at 15 million. So you're telling us that you don't know true numbers, and so if we believe you can do it, you're going to create a new bureaucracy, which right now, you have to take care of sewer, and you're going to create a new bureaucracy, correct?
We're going to create Parks and Recs programs, yes. I mean,
Exactly, which gets to be a nebulous,
And we've tried to
pie
make
in the
that,
sky.
we've tried to make that transparent, that yes, indeed, sewer rates may be impacted. So
It
and
will
that's-
be impacted.
Yes,
Not
and
maybe, it will be.
And that's the people's decision if they want to do that, to put that
And
to
do
the
we
vote.
have faith in this board that we can say, blank check, let's go, folks, we want to go with you, because we really like Leonard. He's such a great man that he's created a great policy in our district.
Can we try and not make this personal?
I'm not making it
Okay.
personal. He's just the president.
Okay.
And he represents the whole
You
board.
have the speakers
Okay.
that have to come up.
So that's what you're telling us.
Yes.
Okay.
I will point out one thing, though. As we would shift the property tax so that instead of subsidizing sewer service charges, it goes to Parks and Rec, any sewer service charge increase, there has to be a Prop 218 hearing, and if enough people protest, then the sewer service charge increase doesn't happen, and that would preclude the board from any further shift of property tax at that time. So there's multiple checks that the citizens have
Right.
to maintain control.
But the main check is on the new department, the recreational department, we have no check on.
The board will have a check on it, and you elect the board, so.
Right, every
So-
4 years. Thank you.
All right, Len Erickson?
My name is Len Erickson. I'm a resident of El Granada. I have also been a member of the Midcoast Parklands, which for the past 15 years, until taken over by the county about 3 years ago, was responsible for the operation of Quarry Park. This involved raising between $5,000 to $10,000 a year to provide the liability insurance for overall use of the park. I say that just to give you a background of what it takes for citizen operation of the parks. Some of you who have lived here much longer than I remember that used to be out in the meadow, horse stables, horse operation. Much of that cleanup had to be done by citizens, not by the county. Again, there were some members of MPL and other people, probably some of them were here, who undertook that. When we talked with the county and basically turned over operation to them, it was because we recognized, one, the load to do that was greater than we could sustain. Two, we were next to Post, where there were other parks opportunities, but we really were not in a position to guarantee liability to Post. And three, there were other improvements people wanted. Many of those have come since then from the county, trying to listen to what we want, sometimes doing exactly what we wanted, sometimes going in related but not the same direction, but there was at least a process there. I look upon what the board is trying to do here as a very small first step to raise the question of should we have a systematic way to raise park funds here in the community. This particular step, as they have said, is going to LAFCO and asking LAFCO to approve the formation of the Parks District so that if they do that, then the community can vote on that. That would be a meeting, hearings, discussions on that before the vote. So I think many of the issues here would be raised. People have asked with regard to the board who runs it. It would be the board of this new district. It's up to LAFCO to determine how that election is held. Once it's held, it's the same way it occurs now. Every 2 years, new members are elected. So although you can point to this board, you're really pointing to the community at large to do it. But just remember, all we're trying to decide at this particular meeting is whether to support or not support the action of the board to go to LAFCO, to provide permission to form the district, and then come back to ask us whether we want to do it, which I'm in support of. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Dan Haggerty? Dan Haggerty?
Good evening, Dan Haggerty, 25-year resident, El Granada. And I have been fortunate enough to grow up in an area that had quite a few parks in walking distance, or I should say bicycle riding distance. So I rode my bicycle everywhere when I was a kid. So I think that our area, this coast side, has a grand future, a beautiful future. We all know how special this area is. And I think having some more pocket parks in the right place that the community votes on can just enhance our future here. It's in my mind, it's just it's a necessity to have parks in the community. Communities for years have benefited from small local parks nearby where kids and residents can walk to and meet outside. So I am very in favor of seeing that the issue comes up to vote to the community, and I look forward in participating in the local election process and making sure people are registered to vote, and that this whole community stays enthusiastic about participating in seeing that our community continues to be a beautiful one. Thank you.
Chris Johnson?
Good evening. I'm also a resident of El Granada, and I don't understand. I don't understand the fear and anger that's in this room right now. What is being proposed here, everybody will have a chance to vote on. The action that's being requested here is to get this thing on the ballot in June so that everybody will have a chance to look at the documentation, make their own decision about what is best here, and then vote. I've heard power to the people, democracy, freedom of speech. Is that not what an election in June for this issue would be about? Everybody who's in the district, who is a registered voter within the constituency of this action would get a chance to vote. I'm not understanding the level of anger and fear about just having the opportunity, giving the residents of this community the opportunity to vote on this. We've got people saying democracy and power to the people and then saying, but let's not bring it up to a vote of the residents of this community. I don't understand that. To me, democracy means that a person gets a vote, especially if it's going to affect their community. There is lots of documentation. I'm hearing uninformed comments, people that haven't looked at the documents. The documents are there. The information is there. Whether you agree with that information or not is up to you. But to be upset because you don't know about the information when the information is out there accessible to you, again, I don't understand that. And I just have to come back to my main point, which is I don't understand why people don't want this issue to come up to a vote for the general public in this district in June. If somebody could explain to me why it's unfair, it's unreasonable, it's shenanigans, it's backroom dealing, it's whatever it is to get something on the ballot for public voting, I'm listening. Thank you.
All right, Mike Dolligan. Already spoke. Chris Johnson already spoke. Ellen Coland. Okay. Chris Mickelson. Les Demon. Joel Farbstein. Stein.
Hi, I'm Joel Farbstein. I'm a Montero resident. I'm on the board of the Boys and Girls Club at the coast side, which provides a lot of the active recreational facilities for the coast. I've been involved in the Mid-Coast Parks Task Force, and I'm very concerned about especially active recreational needs on the coast, because there are many. A couple of points of historical fact that first, I attended the GSD public forum the other day, and I heard the candidates speak about what they would do, or at least I asked the questions about what they would do with active parks powers, and I didn't get a lot of specifics. So that's what I want the board to really focus on, is specifics. But when they invoke the fact that there are needs assessments, and they all talk about open spaces, the number 1, 2, 3, and 5 priorities, as one of the candidates said, that's just not right, first of all. Second, those needs assessments took place in 1990, 23 years ago, 1995 and 2003. That was before 50,000 acres of parkland was added, or open space was added. That was before Rancho Corral de Tierra. That was before San Mateo County Parks and Dave Holland, who is a parks director and Half Moon Bay resident, worked with the community out here on Quarry Park, on Moss Beach Park, on the Coastal Trail, and on the Fitzgerald Marine Reserve. So for people here to say that, and you heard it again tonight, if it doesn't happen with GSD, it's not going to get done, that's just wrong. You had General Manager Duffy here say that we're talking with the county about these pocket parks. Well, if you're talking with the county about doing things on the coast, why do you need to have GSD have parks powers? It doesn't make sense for that reason, because their mission should be about the sanitary district. At the GSD forum, you had people mentioning that they're more concerned about the quality of water and the safety of the ocean and the financial responsibility that they have toward making sure that there's adequate sewer capacity. This is really, I would consider it more taking their eye off the ball rather than what they're chartered to do. I know that they want parks powers to expand, but I would really ask you to be specific on what plans you have, especially for active recreation, because if it's all open space, I really fear that this group will do what their friends in Half Moon Bay did when they spent $480,000, nearly $500,000 on buying one lot on Railroad Avenue to protect the former mayor's view. That's not effective effective use of our taxpayer money. And I would like to say that I really want to know, along with being specific about what active lands you would add, because there are nonprofit groups, and you've heard them here, Friends of Murata and Friends of Half Moon Bay Parks, are organizations that can help parkland on the coast and work with the county. Perhaps if GSD didn't have such an antagonistic relationship with the county, they might get more things done.
Your time's up. Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
I would like to correct one statement. The land acquisition in the last few years is not 50,000 acres, it's under 5,000 acres. It's primarily Rancho Corral de Tierra,
working with the county on pocket parks. We were talking with the county on Quarry Park. Next up is Charlie Hall.
Joel and I worked on the city of Glass County area, approximately, about a year and a half, something like that. When we were trying to put together parks for the whole coast. And it got too convoluted because the property we were looking at was owned by Nordstrom's Exchange on 92. But everybody in the community, all up and down the coast, participated, and we designed a beautiful park. Had the land to do it on, but we ran into a lot of offsets because of red-legged frogs on the pond, garter snakes, all kinds of setbacks. So parks are a good thing, okay? I'd love to see more of them, but it's not very simple to do, to have the type of recreation that everybody wants and needs. Montara, or is it Moss Beach? Which was it? Or where they built the park that finally got somebody bailed them out because they didn't pay the taxes. But the residents got so upset that they were so engrossed with the idea that they created their own park and voluntarily built it themselves. So then they needed to be bailed out because the taxes hadn't been paid. But it was difficult to get everybody on the whole coast to agree, but I think we finally did that, right? On the concept and the design, but it included multiple things. It was pretty much heard from the public what the public wanted. So if you're going to do parks, it's hard to mix sanitation and park services at the same time to give it justice. So I'd like to keep the parks as a separate issue.
Gene Knight.
My name's Jean Knight. I'm Jean Knight, El Granada. Just mainly a question. I like the idea of parks. Like many, I'm struggling to understand the connection with the sewer district. You mentioned that one of the things triggering this was the potential loss of property taxes. It sounds like from what you said that that's been an issue for a while, and you're anticipating that you might lose that money to offset the sewer, and so you'd like to capture that for parks. My question is, what triggered that now? It sounds like there's no particular event where there's something impending, that this has been going on for a while and you're anticipating sometime in the future. How did this originate, this idea? Who originated it?
The district actually submitted an application for approximately the same thing in 2004, and LAFCO had two objections at that time. One was that we didn't identify a funding source, and the other was that we didn't identify specific projects. Now, the problem with identifying specific projects is because the board doesn't already have the power. It's a chicken and egg thing. How do we discuss the projects when we don't have the authority, and they won't give us the authority until we identify the projects? But the funding source, basically, it kind of brought two things together. We realized that a good potential funding source is the property tax that the district receives that we're constantly in danger of losing. So the property tax isn't what's driving it. The desire of the general community, candidates in the audience notwithstanding, for Parks and Rec is what's driving the application, and it turned out to make sense to say, okay, the funding source is going to be the property tax.
Okay, Chris Mickelson?
Well, there's two people with almost identical names in the audience.
There's the other one right there, I guess.
Oh, I thought, that's funny.
Good evening. I'm the original Chris Michaels. Born and raised on the coast. Sorry I didn't catch your name, but you brought up a good point. And I think we're all here in this room because we all do support parks. However, this is not the body I support running anything, not even a sewer district. I had the good fortune to ride through a really beautiful part of Oregon, northwestern Oregon, did a one-week bicycle tour. Absolutely gorgeous coast. I think our coast is pretty nice. I think the Oregon coast might be a little nicer. On that ride was a city engineer for the city of Santa Rosa. It was about the time that this detention tank was proposed. He laughed. That's 60s technology. It belongs at the sewer plant. We have a very large sewer plant. It was built using LAFCO numbers that we'll never achieve. It has plenty of capacity. All we need is pipes to get it down there. We didn't need that to detain that crap in our backyard that we get to smell in the wintertime. Whose idea was that? I'm not an engineer. This came straight from an engineer. But Joel inspired me to get up tonight. I did not want to speak tonight. Because I myself am an elected official. And I don't like taking the heat. But if I do something wrong, bring it on. Give it to me. The city of Half Moon Bay did, in fact, spend $500,000 buying a lot, preserving your neighbor's view. I know what can be done with public funds. I've seen the abuse of public funds. This is a board that will abuse public funds. I don't trust them as far as I can throw them. But I want parks because I've been here all my life. I've raised children here. We have a and Dave Holland, I know him personally, is a really genuinely good person. I would trust the county of San Mateo to run parks, but not this board. And let democracy speak. Yes, I do believe in democracy. Yes, they are a duly elected board. How they get reelected, God only knows. Thank you.
Let me remind everyone that the pipeline expansion that Chris supports would have cost somewhere between $6 and $12 million, and the project that we did as an alternative cost way under $1 million.
The next speaker is Delia Comito. Just for the record, Delia is the district administrator, but she's speaking here as a resident of El Granada.
I just wanted to make a comment as a resident because I moved here when my daughters were 3 months old, and they're now 21. And we've had no parks to go play in really since they've been here. And aside from the politics and the personal feelings, I really feel that there is some heart in this board and that they have very good intentions, and whether it be the people are seated here now or other citizens who decide to run and may eventually be on the board at some point in time as we all grow older, I think it's a good idea to have control over our local area and local parks. We've given the county plenty of time. They've done some very good things, but you know, we don't have a lot of say in what they do. So I think the intention is very good despite what people say, and I think it's a good thing. So thank you very much.
And that's Fran Pollard.
Good evening, I'm Fran Pollard, El Granada. I was once on this district. And also, I'm really a little upset with the toxicity in this room tonight. And I don't think all this is necessary. I would hate to see some of these angry people on the board. And to say that this board is not capable is ridiculous. They're probably the most intelligent people. Our attorney is one of the best environmental attorneys in the country, I think. He would never let us do anything that would be polluting. They spent millions of dollars already correcting the pipes and the sewers. The last 15 years have been working on that. It's not like they've been ignoring. The insinuation that the ocean is polluted, that's just not true. They've cleaned it all up. The gravity pipes that are on the Burnham Strip are to get the wet weather flow that comes down. And where there is a sign about polluting the water's polluted, that's in the harbor. And that comes down from the streams and through the drainage. And that's from birds, animals. That was determined by the health department, who've been studying this for years and years and years. So to say they've done all the work. And by the way, we tried all the different things you guys have suggested in the past years. I've been here 40 years. We did try a coastside-wide park district many years ago, and that failed. The groups of people in here talked about, many times we used to meet to talk about consolidation, maybe forming a second city here on the coast. That failed. So many things have been tried through the years. Just because you're just coming up now and finding out all this stuff doesn't mean it wasn't tried before. We've tried all these things. They've all failed. It doesn't work. It's going to be too costly to get different kinds of districts to work together. So that is that was the reason that we determined that an existing board was the easiest way, the least expensive way, and to have a park service. And it's local. I mean, when we say local park, we're talking about community parks where your kids can go and play in the playground or close by. You're not going to send them to Tierra, whatever that is, in Moss Beach. You're not going to send them to the hills, and they're little community parks near where they live, and that's what we're talking about. And again, this is to allow a vote, and that's the most important thing. We've got to allow. And by the way, I happen to have the plan that the county did. It was 2002, and I'll let you verify. 89% preserve open space, walking, jogging areas, 79%.
All right, Fran, Fran, you've got time.
So we could go on.
There you go, Fran.
Jim Larimer? I think they like you better.
My name is Jim Larmer, and I live in Miramar. And I'm a newcomer. I've only lived here 25 years or 26 years, raised 2 daughters here. But I've also in the past been an elected official. And I would like to talk about my experience with these guys. I sat across the table from a couple of them when I was on the CCWD Water Board, and I was represented with the SAM Board from CCWD on water recycling. And it didn't happen, and it didn't happen because of these guys. And if you want to know why it didn't happen, read Chris Thalling's editorial in the Review. If these guys have control of parks, the next people they will sue will be the Boys and Girls Club or Pop Warner Football. This is the wrong group to be in charge of parks. Thank you.
All right. That's all the speaker slips we have, so if you want, you can close the public hearing portion of it.
I have one other comment in response to that. Recycled water didn't happen because CCWD at the time Jim Larimer was on the board opposed Sam's application for grant funding.
Tell it to Chris Thalling. He knows the truth.
Okay, so...
Okay. We're going, so we don't have any more
There's
speaker
no more speaker
slips.
slips.
Is there...
We have to go out.
Ask a question that has nothing to do with politics.
Come to the microphone so you'll be picked up on camera.
We've got 8 minutes to go.
You're going to have to keep it quick.
What I'm trying to bring up is, I've been sitting there thinking after what I said and everything, got my face red, but the thing is, we moved here in '71, my kids were already One was in school, one was getting there. But we had to transport our kids for soccer, popcorn, or Little League to Half Moon Bay. But what I'm getting to is there was a guy by the name of Corbus, and he ran soccer. And he had an organization. What I'm trying to get to, have any of you people contacted the youth organizations?
Yes.
Yes.
What do they say?
We're talking to them right now.
Who are you talking to?
ISO, the group, the soccer groups.
Well, other than soccer.
Well,
We're talking-
So you got baseball, you got softball?
We're talking to AYSO and also to Little League
Little League?
and AYSO, yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay,
so.
so there's a board.
Is there any action that
We
we
don't
need
need
to
any
take on
action
item
tonight.
one?
This is just a town hall hearing, so, yeah.
Okay, item two, now, some of the speaker slips there had item two written down, but I couldn't read the other parts of what was written in, so I didn't know whether they actually wanted to speak on the.
Did anyone submit a speaker slip for item two?
Specifically that.
For
the
Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side? Yeah.
Leonard?
Item one, she wants to read the letter.
Tom McCaffrey, 20 years plus, resident of El Granada, raised my kids here. I work with Jim Blanchard on Quarry Park. I think my name is on a plaque down there for volunteering at the park. Love the parks. So we have a group of people here who want to propose a park district. And I got this in the mail the other day, or maybe not the mail. Anyway, it says that your opponents oppose parks putting 25% of GSD revenue at risk, and then equal treatment for all applicants, talking about disregarding California law. So I asked your opponents about these issues.
The 25% is the current.
Let me just finish this. I asked your opponents about these issues that they say are their statements. They deny that they're statements. So, if you guys are putting this stuff out in the community, how can we trust you to run a sanitary district, let alone a parks district? You guys
That's
want
our
my property. You tried to buy the building that you hold your meetings in right now. That didn't go very well, did it? So you bought the Burnham Strip. You protected views for your friends. I mean, let's get real here with what's going on.
But why don't you let him respond?
Put facts. If you're going to put papers out here with your pictures on it, put real facts out there. Thank you.
There's two statements there. One, the opponents are against parks. I think it's pretty clear from what they said tonight. They have stated they're against the parks proposal. Slam dunk.
Your opponents never been to us
Not one time.
Never
Again, this board running the parks.
You
running the parks.
The 25%.
Chris?
Okay,
Chris?
we're not on that item anymore. We're on the SAM item, so.
The 25% is the property tax that we would lose. So that's for the 25%.
So,
I would like to address this.
we're off that item.
No, we're
I'm
off.
sorry, we're off
We
that
answered
item. We
his
can't do it.
To me, this is fundamental to the.
Yeah, but the Brown Act stipulates once you've left the item, you have to move, and you've moved on, you can't reopen it, so.
Is it to relate
We're
to
at-
ongoing issues?
That's
Item
SAM,
two,
Sewer Authority
consideration.
Mid-Coast Side.
Consideration of Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side meeting and ongoing issues, report by district representatives. Do you want to do this?
I'm not on Sam.
Either do the consent agenda or we gotta get out of
Matthew.
here.
All right, can we move to the consent agenda?
All right, so we're going to punt item two then?
Yeah, but we don't have a report, so.
All right, consent agenda. Anything to be held for discussion from consent? Is there a motion to approve consent items 3 through 7?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The consent agenda is adopted. Item 8, committee reports. Report on seminars, conferences, or committee meetings. Any? None here.
Not to report.
Okay, item 9, attorney's report.
No report.
Thank you. Item 10, treasurer's report.
None.
Thank you. Item 11, general manager's report.
Nothing further to report.
Thank you. Item 12, administrator's report. And what I typically do from the administrator's report is kind of a look at the economy and, well, gee, anybody who thinks the economy is improving, we've received one application and no new approvals. Compare that to when I was new on this board, and we were doing 35 to 45 a year. Now we're doing, I think, about 5 or 6 a year. So someday that'll pick up again. Item 13, engineer's report. That's
Nothing
printed only, and there's nothing in there. So we are at the end of the agenda. We are adjourned. Thank you.